If presence is always here, why do humans experience it as lost, distant, or hidden? This question exposes a deep contradiction in how presence is commonly understood in much of modern psychological and spiritual discourse. Presence is treated as something that must be accessed, achieved, or recovered. It is described as rare, fragile, and dependent on special conditions. Yet this framing raises an obvious problem. Can something that is genuinely present ever be absent? If presence truly disappears, what remains to experience its absence? To approach this carefully, a distinction is required. There is ontological presence, the basic fact of being aware, experiencing, and existing, and there is attentional availability, what is noticed, emphasized, or foregrounded in experience. These two are often confused. Ibn Arabi's claim is precise. Presence was never hidden. What changes is not reality itself, but perception, how attention is distributed and how experience is interpreted. Despite unprecedented connectivity and stimulation, many people report chronic feelings of disconnection, alienation, and inner absence. This experience is often described as a loss of presence, feeling not here, detached, or removed from life as it unfolds. From a cognitive science perspective, this condition is closely associated with excessive engagement in self-referential processing. The mind becomes absorbed in narrative identity stories about the past, projections into the future, and constant self-evaluation. Experience is filtered through commentary rather than directly encountered behaviorally. This leads to seeking fulfillment through future goals, external stimulation, or identity reinforcement. Presence is postponed, imagined as something that will arrive later after success, clarity, or resolution. Neuroscience adds an important layer: increased dominance of the default mode network, which supports internal narration and self-reflection, is associated with reduced present moment awareness. Presence is mistakenly treated as an emotional state, comes and goes. Ibn Arabi reframes this problem decisively. What feels like absence is not an ontological loss, but a perceptual error. Ibn Arabi was not a mystic concerned with escape from the world. He was a philosopher of being, deeply focused on how reality discloses itself continuously rather than intermittently. At the center of his metaphysics is a distinction between presence and perceived absence. Presence refers to the immediate fact of awareness and existence. Perceived absence refers to moments when awareness is absorbed in thought, identity, or interpretation. The key premise is clear. Presence is constant. Absence exists only at the level of attention and interpretation. What functions as the ground of experience cannot disappear from experience without experience itself collapsing. Modern frameworks often treat presence as rare or exceptional. Ibn Arabi treats it as inevitable. You cannot exit presence, because presence is what allows any experience, including confusion or distraction, to occur. The first core teaching follows directly from this metaphysical foundation. Presence does not come and go. It is not an event among other events. It is the condition that allows events to appear at all. Ibn Arabi's logic is straightforward. If presence truly vanished, there would be no experience of its absence. Awareness itself would cease. Yet even in distraction, stress, or confusion, experience continues. This continuity indicates that presence remains intact. Simple, real-world illustration clarifies this point. Awareness remains, whether attention is focused or distracted. Attention shifts from one object to another. Awareness itself does not disappear, only its contents change. Cognitive science supports this distinction through the concept of baseline awareness versus fluctuating focus. Attention moves, awareness remains. A common misconception must be addressed. Loss of attention is not loss of presence. What changes is engagement, not existence. Presence is stable. Attention is dynamic. The second teaching clarifies where the sense of absence originates. The distinction here is between ontological presence and attentional neglect. Ibn Arabi argues that absence is a mode of perception, not a state of being. When attention is absorbed in narrative thought, analysis, or emotional reaction, immediate experience is overlooked. This is experienced subjectively as absence. Psychologically, this reflects attention bias, the tendency to prioritize internal narratives over direct, sensory, and experiential input. Neuroscience confirms that sensory awareness continues even when it is not cognitively emphasized. An everyday example makes this obvious. Breathing continues whether or not it is noticed when attention shifts away. Breathing does not stop. What is unnoticed is not what is absent. The insight is precise. Absence is not a fact about reality, it is a fact about where attention is placed. If presence is constant, why does it feel hidden? This question points to a phenomenological confusion rather than an ontological one. Many people report feeling present only during rare moments of clarity, during silence, beauty, or crisis. Outside these moments, presence feels obscured. Ibn Arabi explains this by pointing to identification with thought and self-concept. When awareness is identified with internal narratives, it attempts to observe itself as an object. This creates distance when none exists. Cognitive science describes this as attentional capture. Attention becomes absorbed by internal content, leaving the background of awareness unnoticed. Presence is not masked, attention is misdirected. This leads to a paradoxical implication. Searching for presence reinforces the illusion of absence. Presence feels hidden because it is too close to be objectified. What you are cannot be found as an object of attention. Ibn Arabi extends this framework to theology with strict consistency. Divine presence, in his view, is not intermittent. Presence itself is divine. God is not behind the world, waiting to be accessed. Divine presence is expressed as the world, the continuous unfolding of experience itself. Expecting presence to appear as a special or heightened state misunderstands its nature. A modern parallel can be drawn from field theories in physics. Phenomena arise within an always present field. The field does not appear as one phenomenon among others, it is what allows phenomena to appear psychologically. Expecting presence to arrive as a special experience creates frustration. The mind waits for something extra, overlooking what is already given. The insight is direct. What sustains perception cannot be one of its objects. This brings us to a central paradox. Seeking presence assumes its absence. The very act of searching implies that presence is missing and must be acquired. Cognitive science explains part of this. Through goal-directed attention, when attention is oriented toward achieving a future state, immediate awareness is overridden, presence is postponed by the effort to secure it. Ibn Arabi. Subtle claim is that seeking itself becomes the veil, not because effort is wrong, but because effort is misapplied. Presence is not revealed by acquisition, but by stopping misinterpretation. A crucial clarification is necessary. Non-seeking does not mean passivity or disengagement. It means recognizing that what is sought is already the condition of seeking. Itself, presence is revealed not by effort, but by relinquishing the assumption of absence. This framework has direct, practical relevance. The first shift is conceptual, differentiating awareness from attention. Awareness is stable. Attention moves. Psychologically, this involves reducing the dominance of narrative identity. When experience is not continuously interpreted through self-referential stories, presence becomes more apparent. From an emotional regulation perspective, anxiety decreases when presence is not treated as conditional. Neuroscience shows improved regulation when awareness is dissented from content rather than fused with it. Importantly, this does not require withdrawal from life. Ibn Arabi does not advocate escape or detachment. Presence is accessible in activity, conversation, and complexity. The practical outcome is subtle but transformative. Life is lived from presence, rather than in pursuit of it. The central conclusion follows. Clearly, presence was never hidden. It was only overlooked. What makes experience possible cannot be absent from experience. Confusion, distraction, and seeking all occur within presence, not outside it. Ibn Arabi's lasting contribution is a metaphysics in which loss is perceptual, not real. What appears as absence is a misinterpretation of attention, not a failure of reality. Presence does not arrive, it remains.